The gaming industry was put on a roller coaster ride back in 2012 when a trusted Polish developer, CD Projekt Red, announced that they are developing a game based on the board game of Cyberpunk. This game that they announced is titled Cyberpunk 2077. CD Projekt Red's reputation was well trusted due to their history of making great games, mainly one of their most popular IP, The Witcher series. Their reputation was further elevated in 2015 when they released The Witcher 3. But 3 years have passed since they announced Cyberpunk 2077, and yet there is little information regarding the game. Gamers were ecstatic about Cyberpunk 2077, thinking it's going to be released on the next generation consoles at the time, which are PS4 and Xbox One. Little did they know, it will eventually get released on the next-gen consoles. Alas, 2018, after 6 years of silence regarding Cyberpunk 2077, it finally made a return on E3 2018, with a trailer that encapsulates the essence of an action dystopian future game. In 2019, they released another trailer to keep the hype going, this time with the star power to back them up. At the end of the 2019 trailer, there was a reveal that Keanu Reeves will be in the game. CD Projekt Red's public relations further stated that Keanu Reeves will be at the center stage of the game and will be a very important character for players. Getting Keanu Reeves on board was a great strategy from CD Projekt Red, since Keanu Reeves is once again at the top of his career now, due to the John Wick movies. Fans also like Keanu for being a humble, down-to-earth celebrity. But star power does not save a game's flaws. Cyberpunk 2077 PR team received backlash by fans due to them trying to make a transgender-related response regarding the main character's gender of the game. To put salt on the wound, they then deleted the response from the fans. From miscommunication, scandals, to miscalculation on their project timeline, this video will explain how Cyberpunk 2077 failed at project management.
Cyberpunk 2077 is a first-person shooter role-playing video game that was developed and maintained by a Poland-based studio project. It is an open-world game that takes place in a city called Night City. Cyberpunk is a role-playing story game that gives an opportunity to the players to decide the stories by themselves. Players can choose multiple life paths such as gang-wise street kid or freedom-loving nomad, which affects how the story of the game progresses and ends. Cyberpunk was the hype back in 2020 due to the news that appeared and the teasers that the Poland-based studio project gave to the audience. Other than that, the hype around the game grew constantly due to the players wanting a new single-player experience, which Cyberpunk seems to have. The first time Cyberpunk was shown to the public was back in 2012 in the Red Summer Conference. The game was not titled Cyberpunk yet. It was not until late 2012 when the full title of Cyberpunk 2077 was released to the public. The first official teaser trailer was released in January 2013. After the official teaser trailer, it took 5 years for the first 48 minutes walkthrough of the Cyberpunk was released to the public. The process of Cyberpunk took years to develop. Cyberpunk planned to release the game for all consoles including the PlayStation, Xbox, and for PC. The game was initially confirmed for Microsoft Windows, with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One announced at E3 2018, which is a gaming convention. Stadia was announced in August 2019. At E3 2019, an initial release date of 16 April 2020 was announced. This was delayed to 17 September, then 19 November, and finally 10th December. Players seem to grow their curiosity about the game due to the delays of the release, the teasers, and leaked news about Cyberpunk. Other than that, the amount of time needed to develop the game made players more interested to the game, which caused players to have high expectations for the game. Before the official release of the game, many popular streamers and gamers get early access to the game, but with one condition, that they are not allowed to stream any part of the walkthrough before the official game was released.
Before we dive in, let me make a quick apology. CD Projekt Red wouldn't allow us to use our own recorded gameplay for this review. So unlike a typical IGN review, what you're going to see while I talk about Cyberpunk 2077 isn't entirely representative of what I experienced when I played. But that restriction is only temporary, so when it comes out, we'll publish a new version of this review with our own footage to show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Cyberpunk delayed the release date plenty of times and eventually led to the official release date on 10th December 2020.
The amount of delays that Cyberpunk 2077 had up to the release date diminishes gamers' expectation. After so many promises made, so many features to be added, and so many plans to be implemented, it seemed like the CD Projekt Red core development on Cyberpunk 2077 was bloated and inconsistent. The amount of delay that it had led so many apologies by the company to the point where some fans lost interest in the game would just move to other game. CD Projekt Red handling of PR is not that great either. PR is supposed to promote and create hype around the game. Interacting with community is part of the appeal to why fans want to support developer. In the case of CD Projekt Red, it seems like the way of PR is one-way street where criticism are being disregarded and company agenda was being put up front. CD Projekt Red did not have an ideal way of mitigating the delay of Cyberpunk 2077 due to their lack of transparency in communicating their progress, leading up to the release of the game at lackluster quality. After so many delays and promises that they made, fans feel like the game quality does not justify the amount of delay it had. It leads to fans theorizing that pressure from shareholders made CD Projekt Red release its game in 2020, no matter how finished or rather unfinished the game is. Cyberpunk 2077 was so unplayable it let the game getting removed from the PlayStation Store in December 2020. CD Projekt Red handling of the game can be considered as corporate failure.
The game was launched after 8 years of anticipation. More than 8 million pre-orders had been placed by CD Projekt. Demand was so great that it caused services like Steam to go offline. CD Projekt soon declared that it had collected enough pre-orders to cover the development cost of the game. Unfortunately, the game's enthusiasm quickly turned to resentment and fury. This is due to the fact that the game, particularly the console version, was riddled with flaws that rendered it practically unplayable. Characters would vanish at random, important objectives could not be completed, epileptic triggers were present, and the city's entrance even sported a large misspelling saying Night City. CD Projekt Red received bad publication for the poor release. This caused the studio's stock price to plummet. CD Projekt quickly apologized and even announced that full refunds will be issued. However, the refund process had its own set of issues that made refund process last 4 days or weeks on end. On December 18th, 8 days after its release, Sony chose to remove the game from the PlayStation Store. The firm's investors reportedly sued CD Projekt Red a few weeks later. CD Projekt reacted by delivering a series of public apologies, discounted the game by more than half, and most importantly, repaired it. The studio released the first of many patches in mid-January 2021. The firm issued dozens of updates during 2021, which resulted in significant improvements in the game's playability, Meanwhile, in February 2021, CD Projekt was hacked once more. Many of its sensitive files were eventually leaked on the dark web. As a result of this, after months of terrible headlines, the company fortunes began to shift. Sony stated in mid-June that the game would be resurrected and sold through the PlayStation Store. CD Projekt Red stated sales were over 13 million copies in the first half of 2021, and only 30,000 copies were returned. The company also revealed in November that the next-gen console versions of Cyberpunk 2077 would be released sometime in 2022, following an extra set of fixes.
Zapper dumples and filth. In some ways, Night City never changes.
City of dreams, city of gang. You don't believe in no fate. I might just dig up your grave. Step in the pit with a gang. City of dreams, city of gang, 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 gang. City of dreams, 70 grave. You live in your grave. City of dreams, city of gang, 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 gang. City of dreams, live in your grave. You live in your grave. City of dreams, city of.
It's the city's promise. Not everyone's buying it. But if you want to know for sure, you just need to try it for yourself.
CD Projekt agreed to pay $1.85 million to resolve its investor lawsuits 2 weeks later. On December 16, 2021, just over a year after the game's release. Meanwhile, as additional patches were released, the game's reception grew increasingly positive. The PC edition of Cyberpunk 2077, for example, was named the greatest game of 2021 by IGN Japan.
City of dreams, city of gang, 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 gang. City of dreams, live in your grave. You live in your grave.
Our recommendation will focus on timeline and organization culture. The main reason for Cyberpunk 2077's failure was due to unrealistic expectations and also its premature release that led to incompatibility with current-gen consoles. Executives at CD Projekt also frequently butchered the work of developers that would work on campaigns for months on end. This led our team to believe that this could have been an issue with the culture itself. The premature release and the frequent butchering of work hints that there must have been poor communication or issues with transmission of information from developers to the executives. It is important to note that the old organizational structure also caused for many issues, such as lack of leadership, that even led to concerning issues such as sexual harassment instances occurring at work. Our hopes in revising their organizational structure is to improve on the processes and avoid these things from happening. So, some considerations to be taken in deciding the appropriate structure are as follows: size of the project, strategic importance, novelty, and need for innovation, their need for integration, environmental complexity, budget and time constraints, and also stability of resource requirements. According to the background of CD Projekt and its structural objectives, our team recommends the matrix structure. Some things to consider are the fact that this structure is efficient, flexible, and has a strong project focus. Most importantly, it also has easier transitions post-projects, which perfectly suits Cyberpunk 2077's situation. Some things to note are the fact that there might be internal conflicts, slow processes, and also some form of dysfunctional issue. However, said issues will lead to requiring more communication within the organization itself and can be some sort of blessing in disguise. These miscommunications will encourage more communications amidst the organization and can help them clear out things or doubts that may be had and can allow them to work on the same page. So, what is the expected results of our recommendations? So, considering the fact that CD Projekt could have delayed the development until 2021 or 2022, this issue or setback that they experienced might not have happened. It could have allowed for them to properly monitor the game development, check its compatibility, and ensure that the game will have little to no bugs. If CD Projekt does implement our organization culture recommendations, this will not only allow for clearer communication within the organization itself, but it will also help them be able to properly focus on the Cyberpunk project at hand, as the matrix structure allows for different team projects to work on individual ones. It is also important to keep in mind that this is different from what they used to work with. For example, the past Witcher games allowed for developers to use past Valiant graphics that sped up the development. This is why it is important to implement Project Focus, as it is a new process that the organization will have to be going under in order to succeed or to have avoided this issue.
After 1+ year from its release, with so many drama happened surrounding the game, Cyberpunk 2077 is finally at the state it was meant to be from the start. It fulfills fans' expectations in 2022, since so many bugs and glitches has been patched, quality has been adjusted for the proper next-gen experience, and extra downloadable content was released for free. This leaves a question: is it too late for Cyberpunk 2077 to redeem themselves for fans? This question needs to be asked because CD Projekt Red is finally happy with Cyberpunk 2077's quality as of right now. It proves that the game was not ready to be released in 2020 and should instead be released in 2021 or 2022. It also proves that the decision from the higher-ups, co-founders or shareholders, had a big influence on the development of Cyberpunk 2077. From timeline, risk, and organization management, all of it got a big influence from the top seat of CD Projekt Red. From a project management perspective, CD Projekt Red should not promise so many features to be put in the game. Great ambitions are exciting, but when they do not deliver their ambitions properly and at a timely manner, it becomes a problem. CD Projekt Red succeeded in releasing Cyberpunk 2077 as their deliverable, but they failed at delivering a game of high quality.